Hello there, good morning, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. And it's lovely to have you here. I'm just going to take my Rapley bracelet off. And thank you for joining me again. It's Saturday, so it's Saturday Sketchbook. I do love a bit of alliteration. Did you know that in Anglo-Saxon times, alliteration was the way that they rhymed? Used the beginnings of words rather than the end. Just a fascinating fact. It's on my bucket list that one day I hope to learn to speak some Anglo-Saxon, or read some at least. Haven't managed it yet, but hopefully I will. And so Sketchbook Saturdays, where I show you my sketchbooks, and I tend to work sometimes in sketchbooks, sometimes on pieces of paper, but to show you the work I've been doing this week. It's kind of a weekly roundup. So this one will be familiar if you've been following the series on this. I still haven't finished colouring it. I got a bit sidetracked with the templates for the colouring group this week and other projects, particularly involving distress ink backgrounds. But it's close to being finished in terms of colour. So I may spend some time today doing that, not recording it, but just getting it done. And I may not, because I don't know what I'm going to do yet. It's lovely out. I do have to say that it's sunny. There's a lovely chilly snap in the air. You know, autumn's on the way and the sun is golden. It's that time of year where it's low enough in the sky to be a lovely golden colour. So anyway, I witter on. So I'm really quite pleased with this and how it's coming along. There's, even when I finish colouring it, there's still work to be done, because you know I love my embellishments, my little dots and highlights and shadows and so on. I may not add too much in the way of shadow to this, to be honest, because I think it's more or less okay as it is, but highlights I think are definitely needed. So that's the first. The other one I wanted to just show, in case you didn't watch all the way through the video or didn't see the video of this week's templates. The colouring template for this week was a set of 8 ATC sized drawings. ATCs are short for artist trading cards, and they are small works of art or craft, and each one of these is 2.5 by 3.5 inches in size. I made my drawings a tiny bit smaller so they could be mounted on an ATC card with a little bit of a border around, but they can be printed to ATC card just by adjusting the percentage that you print them out. You wouldn't need much more, to be honest. And with both of these, I actually cut off the border that I'd created around them so that I could use a background colour. And I used distress inks to colour an ATC card, so layered them up. And in this case, I've mounted them on card blanks so they can be sent as greeting cards. This one is complete, and there is plenty of shimmer and shine on it, as you may see. Not overwhelmingly, but I've just picked out bits and bobs and spots and places that it would benefit from. The other one isn't finished. I think I'd actually send it this way. I haven't added colour or anything, but it's a small project for me to do when I'm feeling overwhelmed by bigger ones. I'm not sure if I've shown this drawing, but I know I started it last weekend or earlier this week. And this is a piece of, it's Canson Imagine, I think. Look. Yeah. Canson Imagine paper, coloured with distress inks, and I've been drawing on it with a Uniball eye pen, and obviously the drawing isn't finished yet, and I think I put it to one side. I know I put it to one side as I'm looking at it, because I thought, what on earth was I doing, especially with this area here? But having taken a few days away from it, I'm thinking, actually, that'll be fine. I just need to carry on working with it. So that's going to go into the pile of let's carry on working. This one you haven't seen because I've been working on it quietly from time to time on my own. It was a bit of an experiment to begin with. The background is distress inks. I don't know the colours. I think there's vintage photo. There's hints of green there, but it looks like rusty hinge and was probably antique linen, I would think, possibly tea dye. But here, instead of drawing in black, I've been using a brown Unipin pen, one of the the browns here, which is quite a sepia colour. It's quite a black brown rather than a brown, but it's warmer and it gives a softer, gentler feel to the drawing, and I've really enjoyed doing this. As you can see, there's a fair amount to be done, and this is the one I was working on yesterday, and you can see how different the backgrounds are, how darker this one is. And I've used a similar coloured pen, but it's more intense colour. This is an Arteza gel pen, one of the dark brown ones like this, so it's going to be slightly darker. But here, these little motifs came from these ones that appeared here, which developed from these in the middle. Excuse me, frog in my throat this morning. So that one, this is the one you saw, if you saw yesterday's video vlog. This is the one that I started yesterday, and I have done a bit more work. I ended up here, so all of these bits around here and some bits up here are new. And I'll keep on working on that, whether I record it all or whether I just work on it quietly and show you the end result later on. I don't know yet, because this is what I do. Okay, let's have a look. Like sketchbooks. Oh, let's go to the other one, because this sketchbook you've seen, I've shown you often enough, but there are some bits and bobs. I think this is how far I got to. Need to learn to put page tabs in, don't I, or open them to the page I need. All's well. This one I still haven't done anything with. This one is, that one's all done. I think I've shown that one. I haven't added any colour to this one yet, or shading. This is a drawing I started, and it's something I can come back to, although it'd be quite nice left as it is, with space for writing, quotes, journaling, whatever I may choose to do. This was just a bit of an experiment. You can see I'm going back to these little motifs here. Strange how I've circled back to them, or they're appearing in my work again. Don't know where that's from, but it happens from time to time. I revisit things, branch out, and then I circle back again. But I used a grey version of the uni pins on this particular drawing, and I'm not sure that the grey works on this colour background, to be honest with you, but I'm interested in adding colour to this one. This colour, this background is quite garish in terms of it being quite bright. I'm beginning to work out which colours in the distress palettes I like to go with each other, and I know that this one needs some knocking back, and I can do that with browns or greys, or perhaps blues, something just to take that garishness off. This was a drawing I started, and I was using a fine ballpoint pen, and it actually, coming back to it, at the time I was thinking, what was I doing? I put it to one side again. Did this about 2-3 days ago, and as I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking, oh, perhaps I need to carry on with this and see what happens. I don't know. It's interesting though, and the fine ballpoint pen gives a very fine line as well, so that's interesting. And this was one where I thought, let's try using different colours for different kinds of motifs. And I didn't really stop and think in some ways that I would have liked these circular motifs to be darker, and these to be the medium, and these would be the lighter, the little spirals to be the lightest sort of colour. But it seems to be working its way through in some way. I don't know whether I like it or not. I'm undecided still at the moment, which is why it's only got this far. I like these motifs here, these leaves with sort of like seed pods on stems. I don't know what you call them. They've got seeds or little leaflets inside. And I rather like these ornate, quite ornate motifs for me, you know, circular motifs there, especially the ones that have got the little spirals on the top. That is something I really do like, and I think I picked it up from looking at Mayan and Aztec architecture and sculpture, because it's just so cute. And then there's nothing else in this particular sketchbook, so let's go to this. I've actually got 2 of these on the go. I picked up last summer a pack of 3 of them. One of them I started turning into an art journal, or a journal, a sort of like a scrap journal, something like that. And but not with scrap really, but using my own things. And I got so far and I thought, why am I doing this? I really didn't know what I was doing other than I was trying it out. So that sits on a shelf in amongst all other piles of books, and I may return to it. But it's mixed media paper, and it's thinner than the Clairefontaine, and it's got a really rough texture on it. So as you can see, when I add distress ink to one side, I get this rather rough and raggedy kind of effect, and it grabs the ink. It's really, really dark, but the reverse of the paper is really nice because it's smoother, and I get a nicer finish. So I shall see what happens. I did try spraying water to see if I could get the inks to because with distress inks, when you spray water, they will push the ink away and you get like water spots and you can lift the colour up. It just wasn't happening. Even though the surface is rough, it's actually still okay to draw on. And with this, I picked up one of the green Arteza pens, the vintage colours, to draw on it. So I thought the green would be in keeping with the background. Some interesting things happening there, shapes and patterns. And again, it's something I'll continue to work on and see what happens. How much I'll use these books though. So look, the colours. The backs of the pages are lovely. It's just these rougher sides. This, I added so much water that it was ridiculous, and that may be the way to go. You can see some water spots here and there. This one was, I think this one I did add water to, again, and it seems to soften the colours. But this one is really lovely. Again, contrast between the two sides, how smooth and nice this is and how rough, and I'm not sure whether I like it. I think it may be too rough and it may distract from, it distracts from the drawing, but go back to the front. But when colours added, that will help to lift this from the background. So I'll see what happens. So there's that. And then one last book, because this is going to be quite a quick flip through, is my other sea white one. And this is where I've got pages in it that I've coloured with distress ink, but I have put collage pieces of paper that have been coloured with distress ink on as well. I've done nothing with this one. This is complete. I'm not sure I've shown it because I have gone back and added embellishments. I had to try out the Sakura Moonlight, the Jelly Roll Moonlights on here, and they're fab. They're so opaque, not opaque, matte. They work really well. They're a lovely contrast to the shinier souffles or glaze or metallics. And there's a lovely range of colours in them. Some are lighter than others, but they really, a lot of them really toned in well here. So I've got some greens running at the sides here, which you may not be able to pick up. And there's an ochre colour, which actually dries quite dark. And up here as well. I really have fun adding these little bits and pieces just to add interest around it. So those are pens I'm going to be using a lot more of in the future. This one I've shown, and I think this is finished. I've done as much as I want to do. I've tried different ways of shading and adding shadow. The only places I might do something about are these piles of little dots here, just to tuck them, have them feeling like they're tucked under. It's there. This one, I've started adding colour to it, but it's very subtle. Here I've every other section here I've made a brighter green, a slightly brighter green. It's not showing up well on the camera, but to my eyes it sort of does. So it adds a kind of interest there, but I think that is something that needs to be, again, intensified. And I did use distress inks for that. But on the other parts, because this is quite heavily shaded with biro shading, and I just wanted to see how things would react or work with that. So I have used some distress inks, but I also dug and delved into, I used Magello Mission Gold watercolours, and distress inks have no pigment in them. They've got inks, dyes, but no pigment, so no solid bits. Same with things like Tombows or the Ecoline watercolours. But the watercolours have got some pigment in them, and you can see it like little, because even though they're transparent, there's still some, they're still opaque at the same time, you know, in some ways. You've got little powdery bits in some of them, and in the yellow ochre in particular, or the ochre there is, and others, and I could see that creating a duller finish than perhaps I'd wanted in terms of colour. So that's something interesting for me to bear in mind. Again, I'm veering away from watercolour. And then these two, I'll come back to that one. This one, it's okay. You know, this is interesting with the gold patterning around this central bit. I've left a space there for something to go in there. What, I don't know. I may go and dig and delve through the ephemera I've got, the Tim Holtz ephemera, or having a look at ephemera I've made and see if an inchy would fit in there. An inchy is a 1 inch by 1 inch piece of artwork or an embellishment. It's usually quite thick on heavy card. Doesn't have to be, but it's like a miniature artwork. So, you know, you put inches on ATCs and, you know, ATCs on cards or whatever. You can have twinchies as well, which are 2 inches by 2 inches. And I've even seen people doing artist trading coins, which are circular versions of artist trading cards. I'm not quite sure the dimensions. I'm not sure. I think they might be, are they 2.5 inches in diameter? I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but I have seen them. So people are getting creative with the size and shapes, which is lovely. And the idea of creating something small. And this was a comment about this week's colouring template with the 8 little drawings on it, so the 8 ATC size drawings, was that there was a member in the group, Monica, who said these are perfect for when you want to do some colouring, but you don't feel like you want to start on a big page because you feel you have to finish it and you become overwhelmed by the idea. But these little small drawings are brilliant just for short sessions, just to feel you've accomplished something, you've achieved something, you've completed something in the time you've got or the energy and concentration you've got. And so it is with things like ATCs and things, and inchies and twinchies and all of these other things. And I do have a tendency towards smaller artwork, although I seem to be getting bigger at times. But this has been quite nice in some ways because I've got these smaller areas and the large one around. I'm really not sure at all about this. And this one I definitely really am not at all sure about. There's a new series of Zentangle project pack out, which is all about letters. So I think that's where this came from, because every now and again I dig into the realms of things like monograms and lettering and what have you, and I turn away from it and I think, what am I doing? You know, I still haven't come to terms with the fact that I'm trying to see hand lettering almost like calligraphy, whereas hand lettering is drawing, and it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect either. Handwriting doesn't have to be perfect. Lettering doesn't have to be perfect, but my mindset is such it's got to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be. But I'll eventually, maybe, perhaps one day, work out what I want to do and how I want to do things. But I thought this would be perfect for that. And as I'm looking at it now in the light of day, because I did do this at night, it's worked out interestingly, because this does look almost like a medieval manuscript behind the colour. You know, it reminds me of this. The letter does stand out. It's not lost in the background. I have used different colours and so on, so I think there's some influence from Zentangle videos going on there. This I wanted to get a texture on there. I didn't want to lose now I look at it, I can see why I did this, though I didn't think this through at the time. I really didn't want to lose this lovely fading from green to a purpley pinky colour through a sort of like a greyish purpley greeny colour. And these do that, but there's something else is needed, and I'm not quite sure what yet. But I don't know whether I'll continue with it or not. It was just something to do while I was settling down for sleep, and I have no idea whether I'll finish it. But this and this one in particular have made me question my wisdom of doing things like this. But I've done them now, and I showed you these last week, and they will sit here, and perhaps I will do something with them. So this is my sketchbook of the week. This is what I was working on yesterday, my sketchbooks, and I hope you've enjoyed having a look through what I've been up to this week. I hope it inspires you in some way, and even if it's to inspire you to try different media out or different ways of working. It may not work out, or you may not think it's working out at the time, but like with some things, where was it? You know, I can't remember where I was, which one I was showing and muttering about. Sometimes it's about taking those steps away and giving time. It's like this one here. I had to step away from this one to see that, yeah, actually I quite like that, and I'd like to carry on working with it. I'm not quite sure how or what I will do, but we shall see. But sometimes it is just stepping away and seeing what happens, in the same way that with this one here, that little break overnight means that, and daylight and better light means I can look at this and go, well, actually it may not be as bad as I thought it was last night, but I'm not entirely sure about it still either. And again, I think it's got more to do with the fact that it needs colour and contrast to bring it to life, to help it things to stand out or to tie together. So I think perseverance on my part is required, and also a walk away from it for a bit. So I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. I hope you find some inspiration from this. I think I've said that already, but I'm going to say it again. And that you'll join me again one day for some art. 2 fixed days in the week really are Sketchbook Saturday and Template Thursday on a Wednesday and Template Thursday on a Thursday. Because these are 2 things that I definitely do in a week. The rest of the week is pretty movable depending on what work I'm doing, what pressures are on me from contracts and so on, and basically what I feel like doing, because some days I feel like doing something a bit different, and I may dig and delve into the realms of more abstract art, but in a different kind of way, but we'll see. So thank you, please take care. Find time to be creative, and if I've inspired you to be creative, then share your work with me. You can find me in many places on social media. It's all listed in the description below. So take care. Bye-bye for now. Bye.